Hey everybody, welcome to the Week 14 edition of the Fantasy Football Fallout. Thanks to Thanksgiving and some travel delays, I'm actually a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to change the format. I'm going to lump all positions together this week. If you're looking for a specific position or segment, please check the timestamps below. It will take you right there. If you're new to the program, I look at who was projected to score in the top 10 at each position, who actually did score in the top 10. I give my award this week. I'm only giving out the Kicked in the Nuts award for every position. Somebody kicked me in the nuts in fantasy football at every position. I know somebody got you that week, probably the last week of the season for a lot of the fantasy football leagues out there when you needed to get into playoff position or playoff seeding position. If somebody got you, I want to know. Please comment below. I'd love to hear it. And then we also talk about waiver wires. I give my top waiver wire acquisitions as we go into a lot of your either your final weeks of the season, depending on your format, or the first playoff week of the season. So we're going to talk waiver wire, very, very important this week. We're going to start off with the quarterbacks. ESPN's projected top 10, as always, in order: Patrick Mahomes, Jameis Winston, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, Carson Wentz, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, and Aaron Rodgers. Now, who actually scored in the top 10? The ones in white were the ones ESPN correctly predicted in the top 10. Ryan freaking Fitzpatrick, we'll talk about him in a bit. Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, Mitchell Trubisky, Dak Prescott, Kyle Allen, and Lamar Jackson. So that brings me to the award, my favorite award. A lot of people out there like it. The Kicked in the Nut award for quarterback goes to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Oh my gosh, Philadelphia, what are you doing? You had one job. It's to cover Devontae Parker. That's all you had to do. Couldn't do it. Ryan Fitzpatrick has a monster week, leads all freaking quarterbacks in the fantasy realm. Now, I'm going to wager not a lot of you lost thanks to Ryan Fitzpatrick starting, but I'm sure a lot of you liked that Miami Dolphins versus Philadelphia Eagles, or I should say Philadelphia Eagles defense versus the Miami Dolphins offense defensive matchup as a stream play. Unfortunately, you got burned this week. What a bad one. But, you know, I don't think that's a trend. There's a lot of talk out there to pick up Ryan Fitzpatrick on waivers. That brings me to my waiver wire pickups. You'll notice Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't on this list in order. I still like Kirk Cousins, only owned in 58% of the leagues, Jimmy Garoppolo, Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield, and Jared Goff isn't on this list because I think he's owned in a little bit too many leagues for me to really put them on the list. But check him out if you're starving for quarterback. They are starting to run the ball a little bit more. The Rams, hey, imagine that. You run the ball, you win some games. Los Angeles, for crying out loud. But anyway, they're running the ball with Gurley. They're using him out of the backfield a little bit more, like they should have done all freaking season. Thank you very much, Sean McVay. But yeah, Jared Goff is definitely worth the pickup now that they've decided that Todd Gurley can actually run the ball. We knew it the whole time on this network, for crying out loud. That drives me crazy. That's a season-long nut kick, let me tell you that. Let's see, running backs. We're going to move on to them next. This week, ESPN's projected top 10 in order: Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, and Le'Veon Bell, who actually scored. Once again, the white names are the ones that were correct. Well, you get James White, number 1, Darius Geis, Raheem Mostert, 2 players, by the way, I had on my waiver wire pickups last week. You can check the tape. Derrick Henry, Miles Sanders, Peyton Barber, Todd Gurley. Hey, Gurley, you exist. Great. Devin Singletary, Duke Johnson, Ezekiel Elliott. Now, I take a little bit of pride into this because I've been talking about Darius Geis. I've been talking about Mostert. And by the way, I talked about Devin Singletary since preseason, and 3 of those names get on the list. Todd Gurley, wouldn't you know it, when he gets close to 20 carries, he makes this list as well. Peyton Barber, there's some talk about picking him up on waivers. I disagree with that. But let's get to, before I talk about my waivers, let's talk about my Kicked in the Nuts award of the week. It goes to Raheem Mostert. Holy moly, how many of you out there were relying on Tevin Coleman to either take you into the playoffs or get that number 1 seed or win a key game for you? And wouldn't you know it, old Raheem comes in and runs the show against Baltimore. Now, it's interesting because I've been watching Mostert for the last couple of years, and I have to say that I think he's the most physically talented running back on this roster. I felt that for some time. I always felt like he was the perfect running back for this system. This is the first week we've really seen him kind of take charge in the backfield. Is that a trend? Given San Francisco and the talent that they have at the running back position, I don't know that we can count on him to be the guy for the rest of the year, but he's somebody you have to pay attention to, especially in daily fantasy and, of course, in fantasy football. And if you have Coleman or if you have Breed or somebody like that on your roster and he's out there on waivers, you got to pick him up, which brings me to my waiver wire selections going into week 14. Again, crunch time for everybody out there. Darius Geis, interestingly enough, everybody out there, his ownership actually decreased this week. I don't know why, if somebody had Geis, that they would drop him going into this week. It boggles my mind. Darius Geis only owned in half the leagues, 10 carries, 129 yards. Yeah, pick that guy up. Benny Snell led the running backs in touches for the second game in a row. Now, the only reason I don't have him number one in Pittsburgh is because, well, I guess there's two reasons. One, Pittsburgh still likes to throw the ball more. And two, we still have James Conner kind of looming back there, and he will return at some point. Number 3 on my list is Chase Edmonds. Look, Kenyon Drake outtouched David Johnson again last week. It's pretty clear David Johnson is going to be moving on after this season with that contract that he has. Chase Edmonds, I believe, will be the starter next year. If you're in a dynasty league, a keeper league, or any league, pick Chase Edmonds up. He'll have something to say by the end of the season. Number 4 on my list is Nyheim Hines. Jonathan Williams dropped off this list last week because he got replaced by Wilkins in the second half of the game against the Tennessee Titans. Hines is a guy that, as we move forward until Mack comes back, whenever that is, Hines is going to be involved in the passing game. So if you're in a PPR league, he will give you value. Mostert, like I said, I think that Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida will still have something to say. I think it was kind of a hot hand situation last week. I don't think that he's running away with his job, no pun intended, but he's somebody that should be rostered. And then Bo Scarborough as well. He keeps ticking up. He had another, I think, over 20 touches in Thanksgiving Day. Detroit is trusting him, so you got to pay attention to him as well. Pick him up if you're running back hungry. Next on the list, we have our wide receivers. ESPN's projected top 10 in order: Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, Julian Edelman, DJ Chark, Tyler Lockett, who is yet to play, DeAndre Hopkins, and DJ Moore. Now, who has scored in the top 10? Oh my gosh, Devontae Parker. Philadelphia, seriously, one thing to do: cover Parker. That's all you had to do. Devontae Parker, number 1. Kenny Golladay, Alshon Jeffrey, Robert Woods, Cole Beasley, Devontae Adams, Cortland Sutton. I laugh. I'll talk about him in a bit. James Washington, Julian Edelman, Anthony Miller. Who kicked me in the nuts this week? It's the one I was laughing about. Cortland Sutton. Wouldn't you know it? Now, here's kind of, I guess, not the funny thing. For me, he was on my bench this week, but I actually had a really good week. It was the right move for me, as good as Cortland Sutton did. But, a lot of players out there, a lot of fantasy teams out there played Cortland Sutton just because they didn't have anything else to play. And they're thinking, oh, crap, Drew Lock coming in there, starting his first game. Lo and behold, Cortland Sutton walks out with 2 touchdown grabs. So, although he didn't get me and he was on my bench, he could have got me. He didn't, because I won. I know he got a lot of people out there right in the short and curlies, right in the nuts, right in the crotch. Got him. What a painful kick. What a painful blow to the groin area. Cortland Sutton, I know, ruined a lot of people's seasons this past weekend. But, if you have Sutton on your roster, I think you can play him. Locke will try to throw to him early and often, and we're going to see by the end of the season if Drew Lock is the answer, because Denver will be in position to draft a quarterback early next year. My waiver wire pickups for wide receiver: in order, I still favor Samuel over Parker. I don't think that Devontae Parker can repeat this game in and game out. There are going to be teams that are going to realize, hey, Devontae Parker is really the only offensive weapon that Miami has, so I think they'll be able to bottle him up. And that's why I have Deebo Samuel as number 1 on my list, both obtainable on the waiver wire. James Washington, again, I've been talking about him in recent weeks. I think he scored like 3 or 4 weeks in a row or something like that. He's doing well. A pair of guys who are new to this list, I've been talking about Allen Lazard for a while. Again, there are some people you see that just kind of jump out at you when you watch all the games, as I do. Thanks to NFL Game Pass, I'm able to consume every single game of the week. Allen Lazard, I think, is the second best receiver in Green Bay. I think it's only a matter of time before he continues to assert himself. He needs more targets. He needs to be across from Devontae Adams to open up more space for Devontae Adams. I hope he's earned himself into more playing time, so I like him. Honestly, Russell Gage, I have him listed as number 5. He should probably be number 4. Atlanta passes a lot. They're going to continue to pass a lot. Julio Jones Jones, he's banged up. Are they going to shut him down? It's towards the end of the season. Atlanta's not competitive. Well, as they shut him down, and I don't know if they will, but they might, Russell Gage will continue to get more targets, and he is making do on that. So I think he's a good one to have going forward. Next position grouping, we have the tight ends. ESPN's projected top 10 in order: George Kittle, Travis Kelce, Hunter Henry, Zach Ertz, Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, Jared Cook, Greg Olsen, Kyle Rudolph, Jacob Hollister, who has yet to play that Monday night game as of the time of this recording, who has scored in the top 10, Tyler Higbee, Mike Gesicki, wow, Jack Doyle, Darren Waller, Jason Witten, Mark Andrews, Graham, you got Kelce, you got Jared Cook, you have Caden Smith. So Graham and Smith, these are teams with better tight ends that are injured in Austin Hooper and Evan Ingram respectively. But yeah, not a lot of surprise there in my opinion, just based on offensive opportunity. I don't see Graham and Smith as surprises. Higbee and Gesicki, however, are surprises. Good for Gesicki. He's getting into the end zone a little bit more, fulfilling some of that early draft potential finally. I was talking him up before the season. I was a little bit early on him, so there's a little bit of redemption there, but still kind of a surprise, right? Now, who wins the award this week at tight end for getting the Kicked in the Nuts award? George Kittle. People were counting on you, man. What a great game, by the way, San Francisco, Baltimore. It's exactly kind of how I thought it would go. I thought it was going to be a little bit higher scoring than it turned out to be, but I thought it was a field goal game. San Francisco covered that spread as I thought that they would, but I thought George Kittle would have a better game. Some teams needed him this week again for playoff position. Didn't make it happen. That's a tough one. That's a tough pill to swallow. But, for somebody as good as George Kittle is, and for somebody who scores as well as he does consistently, you're going to have a game that's a little bit tough. The weather was bad. Baltimore's defense is getting better and better as the season goes on. It's going to happen sometimes. But Kittle hurt a lot of feelings out there. So people are in their feelings after that game. But let's get to the tight end waiver wire plays in order for me. I still like Jacob Hollister, number one. Again, this is before Monday Night Football. I don't know what happens in Monday Night Football yet, so if he gets injured or something like that, please bear with me if you're catching this later in the week. But yeah, Jacob Hollister, I love his potential in this offense. I've been saying this for weeks. Ryan Griffin as well in New York. Yeah, they had a bad day against Cincinnati, but he'll bounce back, and so will Sam Darnold. Jack Doyle, now that Eric Ebron is out, he's going to be drawing targets. I talked about him in the game previews last week. You need to pick him up if you're hungry at tight end. He's going to get you a ton of volume. He's a great pickup. Njoku, I've been saying this for 2 weeks now, something like that, but he's going to be activated off IR soon, so check him out. I think as Baker Mayfield ascends, so will David Njoku, and then Darren Fells, 23.7% owned. I think he'll be okay. Let's move on now. We have defense and special teams. Let's see. ESPN's projected top 10 in order. We have the Chicago Bears, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Carolina Panthers, Philadelphia Eagles, Green Bay Packers, the Saints, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Patriots, and Ravens. Who actually scored in the top 10? You have the Bucks, the Saints, the Rams, Titans, Chiefs, Steelers, Redskins, Bengals, Bills, and Packers. A number of these teams, once again, if you watch these videos week to week, a number of these teams in the top 10 were teams that I suggested in the waiver wire pickups. But let's see, who broke our heart, who broke our balls, who won the Kicked in the Nuts award for defense this week? The Carolina Panthers. Again, I thought about the Eagles, but I've been talking too much about the Miami Dolphins in the Philadelphia Eagles game. Yeah, Eagles, you had one job. Once again, it's Devontae Parker. Well, Carolina, you had one job to do. Darius Geis, for crying out loud, they can't pass the ball. I think they won the game. They scored 30 points with like a 13-25 day from the quarterback. Come on, Carolina. No good. You're off they were on my waiver wire list too. Let's build some credibility. I was wrong about that. I was completely wrong in Carolina. You broke my heart. You broke my balls. You had every opportunity to have a great game defensively. You just had to stop the run. You give up 12.9 yards per carry to Darius Geis. Shame, 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 Carolina. Let's talk about the waiver wire pickups for defense and special teams. Going into Week 14, best waiver wire defense and special teams. I've been talking about the Titans for weeks now. Ryan Tannehill keeps the defense on the sideline more, which helps them rest, which helps them be terrors against the opposing offense. I love the Titans going forward. I've been talking about them making a run. Well, lo and behold, they're 7-5, and they're right in the thick of things in the AFC. The Minnesota Vikings, for some reason, are only owned in 65.3% of the league. Don't worry about Monday Night Football. Whatever happens in Monday Night Football, I'm guessing that the Seahawks are going to score a lot of points. Don't let that deter you. They're going to be fine. They're just a little bit banged up. They'll be fine for your playoff stretch run if you need a defense. The Indianapolis Colts, owned in 42% of the leagues. They're going to have to win with defense, and they have a good enough defense to get sacks and turnovers. The LA Chargers activated a couple of weapons. Now, they couldn't get anything going against Drew Lock early in that game, but keep in mind it's hard to play teams where you don't have any tape on the quarterback. They didn't know what to expect. I think that this team will settle in and continue to be good as we move forward. And the Philadelphia Eagles, listen to me. If you give up more yardage to a receiver like you did against Devontae Parker, you're dead to me, Philadelphia. But I do think that they're worth owning. They can stop the run and they can rush the passer. So they're not my... You can find better options out there, but if we're trying to stretch this list to 5, I guess they make my 5th. So there you go. That takes me through an episode. Again, sorry everybody for kind of combining these. I'm just trying to catch back up from Thanksgiving travel. I hope everybody out there had a great Thanksgiving, a safe Thanksgiving, smooth travel if you had to travel like I did. Catch us next week, and the rest of the week we're going to be back to regular schedule, so check out our Week 14 playlist. As usual, it will be updated daily. Check us out on more episodes. Please like and subscribe. Let me know who kicked you in the nuts as I let you know who kicked me in the nuts. And we'll talk again soon. Catch us on another episode. See you then.